I'm going to call this work session of the Sequim City Council to order. And the topic of this work session is the 2025 legislative session review. Go ahead and invite Davor up.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, or good early evening. Thanks for inviting me up to give you an overview or just a brief overview and have a work session on the legislative session. My name is Davor Gjurasic, or those of you from Croatia, Davor Gjurasic. I think I'm saying that correctly, but Gjurasic works. I am your lobbyist in Olympia and have worked for you since 2019. What I've provided you with is a end of session report. I think you have it electronically and in hard copy. The first page of the report is basically a one-page overview of the session. It has has more information than you want, but I was trying to get everything on one piece of paper and to break down everything so you could read it and graph what occurred and what didn't occur this session. But let me start off to say that this was an extremely different, it was a very difficult, very sad legislative session. And there were a lot of new faces. This was the first time we've had a new governor in many, many years, and 12 years. So new governor, new executive staff, new agency heads for the most part, at least 21, 22 new legislators were elected. So a lot of new staff there. And they all came into a session which probably 90% of them have never experienced before, the elected officials. And that's a session with huge deficits, both in the operating budget and the transportation budget. So in the transportation budget, major revenue shortfalls for their 16-year, $17 billion transportation package. And in the operating budget, I think it was a $16 billion shortfall in their $76 billion operating budget. And that's over 4 years for both of those. So the legislature had to deal with that, and the governor, and also a lot of federal uncertainty with the new administration at the federal level. The state, maybe you know or don't know, state of Washington receives 28% of its revenue from the feds. So they're extremely worried about monies coming in, anywhere from healthcare to natural resources to Medicaid funds. And so we had that unknown that is hanging out there. And then, unfortunately, there were a couple of legislators, current and past legislators, that passed away this session. And that kind of put a damper on the whole it made a hard session harder. So I don't know if any of you know Senator Bill Ramos. He was the vice chair of the Senate Transportation Committee from Issaquah. He passed away during the session of a heart attack. Right after the session, Representative Jamila Harris was admitted to the hospital. She had a heart attack. During the session, Speaker of the House, prior Speaker of the House, Frank Chop, passed away. He just retired. So there's a lot of stuff going on there. A lot of new people, a lot of dynamics that we didn't, or the legislature didn't have to deal with in the past. So I know Vicki went through this, so you've been through a couple of sessions and you probably noticed a big difference this time around than last time around all the way through. So anyways, so just getting back to the first page of the report, fortunately, the legislature was able to wrap up the operating capital and transportation budget on the last day of the legislative session, day number 105, about 6 p.m. They adjourned, or sine died. The governor now has 20 days, not including Sundays. I don't know where that rule came from, but 20 days, not including Sundays, once he receives a bill or a budget, to sign, veto, partial veto, or do nothing and it automatically becomes law. So he has 4 options. And by my math, I think it's May 20th is the last day that he has to act upon bills. So we will know hopefully next week where the operating and transportation budget is, what will be vetoed, what won't be vetoed, and trying to figure out when we're going to come back into special session this year. So in the operating budget, like I said, there was a huge deficit. You can see at the top of the page, there's basically 3 bills that are taxing bills or revenue bills that generate about $9 billion of revenue over 6 years. We don't know if the governor is going to veto any of those bills. In the transportation budget, they also had a $5 billion deficit, I think, over 4 years. And they passed 2 revenue bills, 5801 and 5802. We don't know if the governor's going to veto any parts of those bills either. So that's what we're waiting for. This is, as I said, a new governor. Sometimes a governor will give a legislator a heads up. Hey, I'm going to veto your bill. The prior governor, Jay Inslee, not so much. He would just veto bills. So the unknown is how's this governor going to react? What is he going to do? What is he not going to do? And is he happy with the product that the legislature has put out? And are these taxes sustainable? Will they generate the revenues they think they will? And what's going to happen on the federal level? So the current governor was very specific that, hey, we've got major issues coming down the pike from the federal level. We need to watch what we do this session, but we're probably going to be back in session anyways. So those are the big issues there. The transportation budget did raise some revenues, but it didn't raise enough revenues to take care of a lot of the projects in the 16-year, $17 billion package that was passed in 2022 where our funding was. But we can get into that. So that's just kind of a quick overview of the session. There's a lot of information here that you can read. And if you have questions, about certain taxes, excise taxes or tax rates, just email me and I'll do my best to answer those. But I've tried to capture the primary bills and vehicles for the operating and the transportation budget. Capital budget, no problem. The way the capital budget works is the operating budget dictates how much money they're going to have. And so once they get that money, that's what they do. They spend it on capital projects. Okay. Let's talk on page 2 about SQUIM specific projects. Our number one project, and the reason I was hired actually in 2019 was to get funding for the US 101 Cinders bypass. We have worked extremely hard since 2019 in getting funds for that project. Originally, we asked for $3 million to get the ball rolling. I think we got $1.5 million to start the whole process. Process started. We have been fighting all along to keep our funding distributed in the bienniums in the years that we want them to, and that means sooner than later. And I think every year we've had to work on either retaining our funding or trying to get it moved up, which we were always successful in doing. But this last session, when the governor's budget came out, the funding was exactly where we wanted it to, but the governor didn't have new revenues for all those projects. He basically punted to the legislature and said, okay, you guys have to figure this out. I'm keeping all the projects funded, but you figure out how to pay for the ones where there's shortfalls. So the legislature, the House and the Senate both came up with their own plans. The Senate had a much more robust transportation budget than the House. But in the end, the House won over. So under the Senate plan, I am told if the Senate budget would have passed, we would have been funded along with a bunch of other projects. But under the House, they had limited funds and they put together some criteria. This is kind of after the fact. You have to go back and see, okay, what really happened, and piece it together. So prior to the session, everyone knew that we had a problem, not only in the operating budget, but in the transportation budget. So we have programs from Connecting Washington, which is about 10 years ago. And then we have programs for Move Ahead Washington, which is where a majority of our funding came from. And these were big packages that were put together. And what has happened is that I don't know if there's one project that is on time, on budget, or even under budget. All the projects that are out there that I know of are running, the expenses are running a lot higher, and that's what and the gas tax has gone down. So that has put the pressure on the transportation budget. So prior to the session, the House and the Senate had an informal agreement and said, listen, if we can't raise a certain amount of money to fund all these projects that we have committed to, we have to have some criteria of which projects we're going to fund now and then which ones we're going to push off. And the criteria was, if your project is not under contract or under construction, then your funds will be moved out. And that's what they did with all the projects. So even though we've gotten money for design, we've had our community outreach, done a lot of steps, the legislature said, here's the line. If we can't raise a certain amount of funds, then all these projects, no matter whose they are or where they are, we have to move out. And they did that to a whole bunch of projects. And you can see on the spreadsheet, I think I gave you on the last page of the report, it actually shows you moving them out to the future. So that was the guidelines that they worked in. The House budget passed, not the Senate budget, less funding. So therefore, our project and several others got bumped. One thing I did find out, which was really interesting, is that the legislature specifically designed it to where they wanted less projects in the pipeline so that there would be more bidding on projects and drive down the cost. So that's kind of a side area there. So I was just told that today by one of our legislators. So there's a whole bunch of things going on, but I can tell you our legislators are committed to doing this project, and we'll keep doing it. And we need to retool. We need to get our community groups together. Remember those 500 signatures of people that wanted this project? We need to work with our legislators and say, okay, we know there's going to be another round of revenue. It might be as quickly as 2027. So what do you need from us? If this is your project, if this is something you want to pass, what other tools do you need and what do you need from us? So, Matt, did you have a?
I'll let you keep going. I just want to fill in some of the gaps on how close our legislatures are to this. You want me to keep going?
Yeah,
well, go. Just so you know, number one is we only have one senator down there, Mike Chapman, and he was even surprised. He didn't even know. He said, no, you guys, we went down there and he was very frustrated and frankly, I think, upset that in the end, behind closed doors, SIMDARS dropped off what he had been promised would make it through. So that's one thing. But we have been working for years. We haven't taken that off our legislative priority list since I've been here. And we've had them up. We've taken them on a tour. We've fed them. We've walked them around to some of the other projects. But we always they know SIMDARS. We've actually put them on a shuttle and purposely pulled out of Palo Alto to make them nervous about how dangerous that is, and they're like, wait, because this is why we need this access road and why we need this interchange finished. So they are very, and they're local folks. So everything you're saying is right, but there's been a ton of effort in that, and our legislators know. I just think it's just bigger than them or whatever, but very frustrating for all of us. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. And it was frustrating for our legislators too that had to vote on tax increases in these budgets and not get their primary project. So they will be working on that definitely. So we need to help them and remind ourselves that it's nothing we've done or have not done. It's simply the criteria that was put together with limited revenue. So that's where it is. But we're going to get the money, and I just hate losing. So that's why it's kind of hard for me to describe not getting the money or keeping the money. So anyways, so that's where the project is. We'll have to gear up and work together and have a couple of meetings on that and put our coalition back together, see if we can expand it and just keep putting the pressure on our legislators. So we had two other projects we were looking at. One was our emergency fueling station that we requested $1 million from the capital budget. In the end, we got $500,000. Had several conversations both with us and Representative Theringer. And when the House and the Senate capital budgets came out, there was no money for our fueling station. So immediately went to Representative Theringer and said, hey, how come there's no love for SQUIM on our fueling station? And he said, well, it's a good project, but we don't have a specific pot of money for emergency management. And he said, but I think we should. And he said, because there's been other projects. So let me see what I can do. So long story short, he did not find another pool of money for emergency management, but I think he will in the future. But out of community projects where we usually get our money, he added $500,000 to us. So, and it was pretty much a last minute thing because all it says is emergency fuel station. It doesn't even say SQUIM. So I had to go back and ask staff, is this us? I said, yeah, that's you. Are you happy? And I said, well, yeah, I am happy. So, so that was good. Another project that we're working on is you're working on also is the Margaret Kerner Park. We had 2 requests in. I wish Megan was here to give her a lot of credit. She put together the grant for $500,000, grant request for $500,000 for 2024 RCO grant funding. And then we also did an individual legislator ask for $1 million. So in the end, the funding that we were approved for in 2024 for $500,000 was funded in this budget. But we were not able to get the $1 million request on that. So we got some, but not all. So we can decide whether we want to go back for more, where our focus is going to be for next year and the year after that. So those are our projects. I just want to stop and see if there's any questions whatsoever. I know last time I talked too much and didn't leave time for questions, but okay, no questions.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I do, just for the summary, but this wouldn't be as specific as this, more just getting your take from your perspective from 30,000 feet, if you will.
Okay.
Is there the deficit that we're facing in the state? It's obviously a combination of reduced revenue and increased costs. You mentioned that, but well, where would you say the basic thing is? Is it cars are more efficient, so they're just not burning as much gas, or
Yeah,
so electric vehicles and they're just not buying gas, or
electric vehicles, this might be sacrilege to some, but electric vehicles are not yet paying their fair share of road usage. A lot of the times they're heavier. They are on the road, but they don't pay the gas tax.
Yeah.
So with the push for more and more electric vehicles, more buses, more PUDs turning to electric vehicles out there, big fleets, the amount of gas tax revenue has gone way down. And what was being looked at in the House was a road usage charge. And the road usage charge would affect everyone while the gas tax is going down, the road usage charge would go up, and that's based on how many miles you travel. Well, that didn't pass. And that was one of the reasons the House transportation budget was a lot less than the Senate transportation budget. But I think what you're looking at in the transportation budget, as I said, is more and more efficient vehicles, more and more electric vehicles, and costs of projects going up and lack of competition on those projects.
And those increased costs, is it primarily labor, wages are going up, or materials?
It's both.
Yeah.
Yeah, labor and wages. So
My guess is that most of our workers here wouldn't attribute as much to labor as they do to materials.
yeah,
People aren't getting as much as they probably hoped they would. But anyway, I appreciate just the overview because it just seems like such a sort of hit the wall here at this session. All of a sudden, the state is confronted with this huge hole to fill in.
yeah, it's hard. I think the chairs have realized it's hard to put together these 16-year budgets. And I think they're going to go back to how they did it before. They're going to go, okay, here's the projects. Here's how much money we currently have. Out of these projects, we're going to fund. Out of this money, we're going to fund these projects. And what they've done in the past is they've looked, we have this much need, so we need to generate this much revenue. And if you're doing 16 years, you can't cost it out realistically. If there's a downturn, if there's, COVID was one of the huge drivers. And if people don't want to do those dangerous jobs working out on the roads. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can probably speak to this better than I can, but when I was down there for Action Days last year, we heard from the governor's office and others that were involved in the budget process that people got used to those COVID budgets, those federal dollars. And so everybody kind of thought, well, let's ask. And so almost everybody's budget ask or proposed budget was padded or whatever was heightened, and it's hard to go backwards. So they kept it up there, but there wasn't matching federal funds. Maybe you have something more to say about that, but I heard from the state folks that we're gonna cross, our revenues and our expenses are gonna cross because we're just not getting that
Right.
free
Yeah,
federal money.
it's not sustainable at all. So, and I think Representative Faya said under his watch, there will be no more large packages. Senator Elias has not made that commitment, but they have to put small packages together to keep going. So, so that's it. One thing I was tracking for you guys was housing issues. I remember when you had 75 people show up to one of your meetings. And since then, we've been tracking housing issues. So I've tried to capture all the different housing bills that I thought were applicable to us. The one housing bill that you've probably all heard about that was very contentious this session was the rent stabilization bill or rent control bill, some of them call it. That did pass. There's information there for you on the bill. Went through a variety of changes during the session, but and I think the governor's actually signed it. He did, yeah, even though I think this report that I did today, it says it was delivered to the governor. Yeah, delivered to the governor. So the computers are slow. But yeah, he signed it, I think, last Friday, Thursday or Friday. But even all these bills they pass, there'll still be more housing. And, one thing I wanted to talk to you about, I'm hired to do projects, and that's what we've been very successful at doing. But you might want to think about policy bills that you want to get involved in. I know a rent control, rent stabilization bill is a sticky one, but there's other issues out there that I'd like you to think about taking positions on to raise our visibility in Olympia. That's I think one of the things that we haven't really focused in on. So, and that comes from you guys. Matt and team know the capital projects, And that's what we've been focusing on. But if there's policy issues that you're interested in, that we can be talking to our legislators, that would be good. So something to think about.
Touch the Public Works, whatever fund, trust fund, I guess is what it's called. Did they?
Yeah, they did.
Oh, did they take
Yeah,
a
there's
piece
a
of it?
bunch of-
They
yeah,
didn't.
there's a
They
bunch of
didn't clean it out. Is that what they were talking about? Emptying it or whatever, and
They
trying to
didn't-
cover the budget with
I'll
that.
have to go back and look, but they didn't. They did transfer funds out of
did?
the public works
Okay.
funds. Yeah, they transferred. So there's dedicated accounts, right? You certain taxes go to certain accounts for certain things, but in situations like this, the legislature just takes that money and puts it somewhere else. Mental health care, or, this is for oil spill cleanup. All right, boom, putting it over here. So that's what happens. I don't. We'll see how sustainable these budgets are. And that's why I believe that we'll be coming back in the special session, probably per Senator Chapman. He thinks June will be the next revenue forecast. It's quarterly revenue forecast, and then that will show fairly bad news, and that we'll be back in special session probably July, August, or September. I'd probably say September. So. And that probably won't be to generate new projects. That will be to make cuts. So. Whenever you have a special session, there's something going on there that you got to take care of like right away. So that's kind of it. I don't know if you have any.
Do you have input on the property tax proposal that, it was increased, there was talk of lifting it from 1% to 3% or something like that, wasn't
Yep,
it?
I've got that all right. That document sitting right there next to you. I can get you information on that. Yeah.
Can you summarize? I think it didn't pass, right?
No,
You
no,
remember?
it did not pass.
Right. So they kept it at
No,
1%, I thought.
correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. I'm still in the haze of the session. There's so many things flying around, but yeah. No, that did not pass. You are correct.
And you all have been generous to allow us to take the option to get the 1%, even though inflation's 3 or 5% or whatever. We just do what the state allows, and what every municipality typically does is the 1% option. So.
Yeah, I think our biggest opportunity are the efficiencies that you're introducing to keep our costs lower than inflation.
Any other questions from council?
I just wanted to say, Davor, thank you very, very much for all your hard work. I can really tell how difficult this session was for you, and just in interacting with you today and hearing your comments. Thank you for advocating for SQUIM. And I also appreciate your kind of let's circle the wagons and get SIMDARs rolling again kind of advice. So I think it'll be good, I think, to do some more community outreach about that project again, because there are people moving to SQUIM all the time, and we can have maybe an even bigger public public comment about the importance of that project, and hopefully help it keep moving forward. So again, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Well,
Yep.
Harmony, thank you for bringing that up. Paul and I had our weekly operational meeting today, and I was venting how frustrated I was that we lost SIMDARs for a number of years. And I said, who builds a half of an exchange? Like, who would think that you only can get on and off on the east side? But we look back, and I don't know if Kathy or Vicky, you may have been here. That was 99 when they did that, and there was just nothing out there, and we got 2 full overpasses. But we're just really limited. And you can imagine it's still underdeveloped out there, but pushing to be developed. But you can imagine 25 years ago, I have to kind of catch up with the mentality of why would they only do half an exchange, but there just wasn't much more need out there then. But today, of course, it's it's night and day. So that settles me down a little bit, but only a little.
Is there any way to potentially? So, well, I think actually there's just there. I have so many more questions. Never mind. This is not the forum to ask this question. Never. Thank you. Thank you again. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Excuse me, Mayor, I'm sorry to interrupt. So our legislatures, although depressed, are making themselves available. They did do a coffee with Colleen that I think I sent the link to you all on. That was fairly interesting. And they're also doing something, Nicole might know this, with the Rotary Club. I think in a week or two, the 3 of them are showing up. So they're trying to get in the community and whatnot. And it's the 3 of them all kind of sharing their take on that. So anyway, they're around besides the summary that we got from our lobbyists, but I think they're equally frustrated. Right. So the NOLA, I forward that every time I get a NOLA report from the lobbyist from Josh. And so I think you've got all of those copies. And Josh is leaving, I see. He's not going to be around next year. So he's going to Eastern Washington, I guess, where he was raised to pursue political ambitions or whatever. So anyway.
That's correct. Yeah, he's starting his own firm.
All right. If there's nothing else, we will reconvene at 6 o'clock for our regular meeting. right, go ahead and call this meeting of the Sequim City Council to order. First up is the Pledge of Allegiance.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I'll go ahead and read the Statement of Coexistence and Government to Government Relationship. The city that we know as Sequim, Xochitl Wing, was once inhabited solely by the first peoples known as the Sklallam, New Sklallam people, represented by three tribal governments: the Jamestown Sklallam, the Port Gamble Sklallam, and Lower Elwha Sklallam. Of these three sister tribes, the Jamestown Sklallam tribe takes the lead in relationships with the city of Sequim, while including the two sister tribes as determined by the tribes. We, the Sequim City Council, and our partner, the Jamestown Sklallam tribe, value coexisting respectfully and responsibly together for the purposes of stewarding the people, lands, and the institutions that serve us. Our governments do not work alone in isolation, but care for each other's communities. With enlightened awareness of the local history of this area, we commit to a continued partnership and collaboration as two sovereigns. The Statement of Coexistence and Government to Government Relationship is a respect to the Sklallam people and their history. And the city clerk will please take roll call.
Councilor Kelly Berger.
Here.
Councilor Dan Butler.
Here.
Councilor Vicky Lowe. Present. Deputy Mayor Rachel Anderson. Here. Mayor Brandon Janice. Councilor Harmony Rudder.
Here.
And Councilor Nicole Hartman.
Here.
And if there's any changes to the final agenda,
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
moved and seconded. Anything further? Any opposed? Let's see, and then that motion will pass. All right, two ceremonial items this week. First one will be Police Week Proclamation. All right, whereas by joint resolution of Congress in 1962, President John F. Kennedy signed a proclamation designating May 15 as National Peace Officers Memorial Day and the week in which it falls as Police Week. And whereas May 15, 2025 is Peace Officers Memorial Day and the week of May 11 through May 17, 2025 as Police Week. And whereas the members of the law enforcement agency for the city of Sequim have played an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of the citizens of Sequim since the department was established in 1913. And whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the problems, duties, and responsibilities of their police department, and that members of our police department recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence and disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression and intimidation. And whereas the Police Department of Sequim has grown to become a modern, award-winning agency recognized as a leader in small city policing, which provides a vital public service covering not just enforcement, but leadership in education, prevention, and community outreach. And whereas according to the 2025 Business Survey, police services received the highest satisfaction rating, 28%, of all city services. And whereas according to the 2025 Business Survey, 36% of local businesses identified police services as the most important city service. And now, therefore, I, Brandon Janice, Mayor of the City of Sequim, call upon all citizens of Sequim and upon all patriotic, civil, and educational organizations to observe the week of May 11th through 17th, 2025 as Police Week, to recognize police officers past and present who by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities have rendered a dedicated service to their communities, and in so doing have established for themselves an enduring reputation for preserving the rights and ensuring the security of all citizens. I further call upon all citizens of Sequim to observe Thursday, May 15th, 2025 as Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of those peace officers who, through their courageous deeds, have lost their lives or have become disabled in the performance of their duties, especially our fallen local heroes, homicide victim Deputy Sheriff Wallace E. Davis, 2000, of the Clallam County Sheriff's Office, and homicide victim U.S. Forest Officer Christine Fairbanks of 2008. Signed this 5th day of May, 2025, Brandon Janice, Mayor. And I'll invite the chief up. Sure.
I'll be faster than last council meeting, but I appreciate the patience. So as Police Week is a time to think back and remember and the impacts of those deaths that have occurred here with Wally Davis and Chris Fairbanks, many of us working at those times. I also like to use this opportunity as a time for recognition. First, a recognition to our officers. The last several years have been very difficult and unforgiving. We went through a pandemic, social and political climate that we've had to deal with, the highest crime spike nationally, but especially in Washington that we've seen in recent history, and worked short-staffed during that entire time. But as you heard last council meeting, despite all that, we've made a positive impact in reducing crime in Sequim. Secondly, part of the reason those things occur is the support we get from our council as demonstrated tonight. I think Brandon stole most of the things that I would like to say tonight, so well done. I appreciate that. But the support we get from council is noticed and appreciated. Probably even more so is the support we get from our community. We hear it quite often, frankly, as we're walking around, even pulling people over that thank us. But the business survey and the community survey really showed that how much our community does support and appreciate its police department. And I just want to express my appreciation for that. To the fact I'm going to sneak out of here because the International Footprinters Association is having a Officer of the Year annual ceremony that is starting right now, which is why more officers aren't here, that and a dispute that they're dealing with. So I'll be headed to that just to get a little more thanks from the community. So again, thank you and thank all of you.
Anything from council?
I'm particularly struck by the last clause of the fourth paragraph, the protecting innocent from deception and the weak against oppression and intimidation. That's really well worded. Thank you for whoever put that together.
Anyone else? All right, we'll move on to our second one. This one's for Teacher Appreciation Week. And whereas teaching is one of the honorable professions, educators touch the lives of every one of us. Their contributions to guiding and protecting, nurturing, and supporting our precious students, investing themselves in the well-being and progress of their students. And whereas these contributions have an immeasurable impact on the youth and families in our community, and whereas the official history of Teacher Appreciation Week dates back to 1953, when First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt persuaded Congress that there needed to be a specific day to recognize teachers. And whereas in 1980, the National Education Association, NEA, joined with the Kansas and Indiana State Boards of Education to lobby Congress to have the day nationally recognized. And whereas on National Teacher Appreciation Day and during National Teacher Appreciation Week, we remember the tremendous debt of gratitude owed to the educators everywhere who helped define us as individuals and as a country, and to all they are doing to light the way forward for our families and our community. And now, therefore, I, Brandon Janice, Mayor of the City of Sequim, and on behalf of the City Council, do hereby recognize the week of May 5th through 9th, 2025 was Teacher Appreciation Week, and Teacher Appreciation Day was held on Tuesday, May 6th, 2025. I call upon our community to recognize the hard work and dedication of our teachers and support teachers by being positive with them throughout the year, appreciate a robust and modern education system, volunteering in classrooms and on the playground, supporting the local Parent-Teacher Association, PTA, during big events. Signed on this 12th day of May, 2025, Brandon Janice, Mayor. Any other reps would like to come up and say any words?
My name's Robin Forrest, and I am a 5th grade teacher over at Helen Haller. I'd like to thank you to the Sequim City Council for this heartfelt recognition. I'm truly honored and grateful to be part of a community that values education and supports educators. It's a privilege to teach and grow alongside the incredible students and families of Sequim. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Carmen Maxwell. I'm a fine arts teacher at Sequim High School, and I wanted to show my appreciation to City Council and our community for showing us appreciation and also being part of our healing and fostering young minds, because they are so inspirational. They are our future, and they mean the most to me in our community. So thank you so much.
Hello, I'm Sherry Burke. I am the librarian at Grey Wolf Elementary. I've never heard about a proclamation done before, so I'm really impressed and think a lot about that. Thank you so much for your time, your effort, and your thoughtfulness in preparing and giving us a proclamation. We are all grateful for your recognition and appreciate your support of all of us teachers and our efforts to educate and inspire our students. So thank you very much for having us here. Thank you.
Any comments from council?
Just a super quick, one of the really awesome things about smaller communities like ours is things like how amazing our teachers are and how they stay with us through generations. When I went to Sequim schools, I had teachers that my parents had, and now my kids have teachers that I had. And it's just so amazing to watch everybody grow together, and parents can only do so much, and the teachers really fill the gaps. And I'm just so appreciative. So thank you so much.
And I agree, Rachel. And also my grandson is now having teachers who I went to school with. So it just carries on. And, you know, our support of the school levy too is also a part of our appreciation for the work that you guys do. So hands raised, thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. All right. Item 7, public comment. Let's see where that run off to. All right. This is a limited public forum. Individuals providing public comment must not disrupt or otherwise impede the orderly conduct of the meeting. This is not a forum for hate speech. The city of Sequim supports the public's First Amendment right to free speech, but it does not support hate speech. Speakers are expected to be courteous and refrain from making hateful comments, sounds, or remarks. Any offensive words and conduct shared by the public do not reflect the city's values, and the city of Sequim stands firm in its commitment to being an inclusive community and rejects discrimination of any kind. City Clerk.
For individuals attending in person, please take a moment to silence your cell phones. I will collect the public comment sign-in sheet. If you wish to comment and have not signed up yet, please do so now. Each person will have 3 minutes to speak on any topic, and there will be a timer visible on the screen. A total of 30 minutes or 10 speakers will be permitted for public comment. Please state your name if you are representing an organization and your city of residence. and no one has signed up for in-person comment, and no one has registered for online public comment.
Go ahead and City Clerk, go ahead and we'll move on to item 9. City Clerk, please read the consent agenda.
Items on tonight's consent agenda: claim vouchers totaling $1,676,630.26. City Council meeting minutes from April 28th, 2025, and the Parks and Facilities ADA Transition Plan, a recommendation to award contract.
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. Anything further? Any opposed? Seeing none, that motion will pass. All right. Sue, hope you did some stretches. You got some heavy lifting tonight, it looks like. All right, 10A, Q1 2025 financial report.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Deputy and council members. Before you tonight have a plethora of materials that covers the financial performance for the first 3 months of the year. Now, out of the gate, I'm just going to say I don't get too excited about 3 months of activity, but I did want to cover some things with you that I'll be just monitoring for the rest of the year. And we may or may not have to take some sort of action in the form of a budget amendment later this year, but we're going to let a few more, we're going to let a little bit more water under that bridge before I talk any more about it. So things to watch this year that I'm keeping my eye on are salaries, wages, and benefits. Many of the departmental budgets are a little over in salaries and benefits. And I just wanted to remind you that this is because of the timing of the negotiated non-uniformed contract. We signed that contract so late in December of 2024 that we didn't have time to get the numbers into this budget. So I just want you to know I'm going to just keep monitoring that, and you know, who knows, things might level out before the end of the year, or we can make accommodations by saving in other line items like salary, like supplies or service charges. The other thing I'm keeping a look at and my eye on is street operations fund balance. It has fallen below policy minimum at this point. It also happened last year, if you recall, and it's just, it's an indicator of expenses were a little higher than I expected, and revenues. We've all been talking a lot about motor vehicle tax, right? Revenues were a little bit lower. So I'm going to just continue to watch that fund's performance. And if we need to make some corrective action later in the year, I'm prepared to do that to get it within policy. So again, something else to look at. Yeah.
On the salaries and benefits, don't we set aside and reserve like people's vacation payouts? Isn't there a process for that?
So for the union employees and for the non-represented employees, typically if it's a union employee, we will, let's say they get a 4% on January 1, 2025. We put that contracted amount and we build that into the budget. We build in a small amount too for non-represented, but again, we
Not
didn't.
what I asked.
Okay.
So you say employee separations, that's when somebody leaves, right?
Oh, yes.
So do we reserve, don't we keep some kind of reserve for people's vacation pay that we still owe them?
It's really in fund balance.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really sitting in fund balance, but excellent question. Sorry, I got off on the side one. Okay, and then the third item, I know I'm going to have to bring an amendment to you for is this is the one-stop shop, snapshot. Down in the bottom, there's a fund called Flexible Spending Account. Well, the state auditor's office came in late last year, and said, well, you numbered it wrong. It shouldn't be a 6-1 fund. It should be a 6-3 fund. And that changes the way it's classified as we roll up our financials. So it's really just a state auditor's recommendation on reclassifying a fund. Because we had to move money out of one fund into another. So we'll be bringing that at some point. Finally, I think the other area that doesn't really have me concerned yet, but it's really anything related to tourism and people coming into the Olympic Peninsula. So that means, our friends to the north, if they're not coming to visit us, they're not spending money in our stores. So there's sales tax. They're not spending money in our restaurants, and they're not staying in our hotels. So we did see a significant drop in hotel motel sales tax in April, which is hotel motel tax earned in February. And we also saw a dip in our sales tax. So I'm not, firing the warning shots at this point in time, but it's just something that we're going to really pay attention to and monitor. We also have some other over budget situations, but I expect those hopefully to level out through the rest of the year. When you're only looking at 3 months of activity, just one spike can really kind of throw you off your game. But we'll have probably a lengthier discussion about this when we bring to you the second quarter financials after June 30th ends. And that's really all I had. Do any of you have any other questions?
I do, Sue.
Sure.
Just a question on under general fund. When you're saying that property taxes were 124K or 356 more over budget, can you explain to me how it got there? Are you associating that with new construction?
So
because I would have figured that would have appeared in impact fees.
So property tax is really difficult to predict when it comes in. And usually what I do is I budget by month. And if we got $9,000 in January of last year, I kind of budget the same amount or a similar amount for the current year. It all depends on when the county receives the taxes. They forward those taxes to us at the end of every month. So depending on what they get into their coffers, they've got to deliver it. It's all on the timing of receipts that they get. And again, it's difficult to predict. I'm predicting that that property tax will level out over the course of the year. I think this was just a fluky bump in the road, if you will.
You expect, okay, that makes sense. So it's a county just whenever they decide to get around to paying.
Whenever the money comes in, they have to send it back out.
I figured that they would pay either twice a year or
they pay us every month.
Every month, because property taxes, twice a year that we pay them at least?
Yes. Yeah. And so the mother load of the property taxes that we receive in April and May and October and November. You'll see those spikes. So again, it's whenever they get the money, they'll forward the balance that they have for us.
Are you seeing an uptick in impact fees right now?
Yes, I am.
Because of the new building out there?
Yep. The construction activity, the development activity, specifically in March and April, are reflective of the developments that we've got going on. So for example, in water GFCs, it's not even June yet, and we've hit $500,000 in water GFCs, which is excellent news for our utilities, as we'll discuss with you at the sewer work session, as well as having a rate discussion with you folks. So yeah, significant increase in development activity. Again, very difficult to predict. It all just kind of depends on who wants to start rolling with development. Any other questions?
Just comment, Sue, I totally understand why one quarter is not enough of a don't- not enough history there to give you anything that's reliable. But the way you've laid out the financial results, the general fund with the narrative and the asterisks and so on, that's just a really nice dashboard to review. I really appreciate that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I like
it's a lot of work. But
we like to do narratives, we like to do pictures, and we like to do graphs for all sorts of different brains out there.
Thank you. You hit my brain.
Anyone else? All right, this is info only, so we'll move on to 10B, Municipal Code 3.52, Combined Utility Billings. This will be a first touch.
Yes, chapter 3.52, Sue Hagener, Finance Director for the record. And this chapter, nothing's been done to it in 15 years, and a lot of water has floated under those utility bridges per se. Lots of changes in laws. Erica who helped me prepare this particular cover sheet. Thank you, Legal Beagles. Specifically identified that the state legislature recently enacted a law prohibiting water shutoffs in heat events specifically. We also don't do shutoffs in cold events. So we've adapted some of those laws in different situations. But anyway, the last chapter, or the chapter that you see that we're totally getting rid of, it's quite a bit shorter, it's quite a bit sparser. So we've really built out our policies and our procedures and things that were just actually never addressed in the code. With that, we would recommend that City Council direct staff to schedule a second touch in the regular manner, which is typically on the consent agenda at the next meeting. Are there any specific questions anybody has about the code that you're looking at? There were so many changes, we just decided to throw it out and start over.
I had one question just for my education on with water utility only. Is there, and you are requiring that the building be put in the name of the owner of the property as opposed to a tenant. Is there any provision in water utilities for a continuous service agreement? So if a property was in between tenants, the owner could say, if it's in between tenants, I want it to revert to my name as the owner.
We still have to kind of figure out sort of those policies and procedures on the ground. But the idea is that we are going to stop the nonsense of administratively taking it out of the owner's name, putting it into the tenant's name, collecting a deposit, starting a new account, setting up a new billing cycle. And then when they move out a year later, do all the reverse over and over again. So we want to eliminate that kind of administrative craziness on the part of finance staff. In the old system, that would take 3 or 4 days of preparation to do the move-ins and the move-outs, to refund deposits and all of that. Our plan for 2025 is that we want to roll this out slowly. So as people move out of their tenants, we're very aware that we tell the owner it's going to stay in your name. So if you expect to move another tenant in, accommodate for the utility bill in your rental rates. So it's going to be a very slow rollout over time. And thank you for bringing that up, because that was the one thing I was going to tell you that we had plans for this year. It's going to be a pretty deliberate marketing campaign just to make sure everybody is on the same page. And again, a very slow rollout. So as people move out of their rentals, we can start that process with the owner, that new process with the owner. Does that make sense? We are trying to get rid of the paper shuffle.
Anything else?
I'm prepared to make a motion. I move to waive the second touch on this matter and direct staff to present an ordinance on the consent agenda of the next available meeting.
I'll second that.
All right, moved and seconded. Anything further from council? Any opposed? All right, seeing none, that motion will pass. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you so much, council.
All right. Reports, youth liaisons.
Hello. For the purposes of the record, Malia Nelson. So a lot has been going on recently. If you may have not noticed, we had the Irrigation Festival this weekend. So this weekend and last weekend, we had a lot of high school students volunteering, high school and middle school students volunteering at the Irrigation Festival. We also had the Interact Club who were holding the American flags in the parade. This weekend, or last Friday, the Squim Sunrise Rotary Club also gave out scholarships to 6 students. And then coming up on the 30th, there is a senior recognition assembly. So as well as the seniors that are graduating and going to college, celebrating them, we're also celebrating their accomplishments in high school. And also senior graduation is coming up in like 3.5 weeks on June 6th. So that's coming up fast. Also this past week, we recognized people who got their letter in community service. So there was about 12-ish people from Squim, and that's completing 145 service hours in the course of 1 year. So it's a really big accomplishment, and it's really cool that a lot of young people from Squim were able to do that.
Good evening, everybody. Recently, we began our AP testing, which I've heard is nothing but fun from everybody doing it. Our Operetta Club hosted the play Oklahoma, which there's 2 more shows. Is that what you're trying to go? Oh, it's over. And I went and I thought it was amazing. Really great production. We also recently just ended our ASB elections, which for some people were stressful and for some unopposed, but I think it went well. Oh, that's right. Our soccer team is currently in districts fighting for a spot in state. We're very hopeful that they'll make it there. And we had our ASB hosted some teacher appreciation car washing and just helping them with like classroom chores, like they needed someone to sharpen pencils or they need someone to clean their desks. So yeah.
At the last meeting, you talked about decision day coming up and how many students were declaring their intent to either go into the service or go on to university or what. Do you have any idea how that went?
Yeah, that went really well. We had an assembly and people, they just like state their intent of where they're going and they wear their college merch. Yeah, it was really good. Really big attendance this year.
All right, thank you. All right, city manager.
Thank you, and good evening, council. So I want to thank the student liaisons for bringing up the successful irrigation festival and logging show. I saw many of you there and walked and participated with many of you. And so that's obviously a big win for the city, but also our residents, but our, of course, staff work really hard to help pull that off. So wanted to acknowledge them and you for participating and helping that happen. A couple other things I wanted to touch base on. I think all of you are aware that Hood Canal Bridge went down last week, and so hopefully you read. I was dying to know why, and they still don't know. Did you read their commentary on that? So they've had experts up from Seattle and all over the Northwest, and nobody can kind of figure it out. They figure maybe some debris got caught under there or something, and when the tugboat yanked on it, maybe it dislodged. Who knows? But anyway, I did hear from Barbara and the tourism committee who's reached out to WashDOT, and although they will continue to be working on the bridge through the summer. They won't be closing it during any daytime. So it's a nighttime closure only through the summer. So just wanted you to be aware of that to share with your constituents if asked. A couple other kind of wins going on in the city. Several of you were at the Attainable Housing Solution Summit. And that was kind of a peninsula-wide planning, housing planning, comp plan discussion. Our city was represented through our consultant, Carla, who sat on a panel and represented us amazing, also was part of the question answers, but really we were well represented. I've heard from some of you as well as from Tim, who thought SQUIM made a really strong showing there and had great answers and data and whatnot. So I really want to kind of shout out to Carla and thank her for her participation. I attended the Planning Commission last Tuesday, and they continue to have conversations around the comp plan and kind of this minor adjustment that we've made in our vendor there. But they also had good discussions around the existing future land use map. And so feel really positive about the discussions happening there. From the Plan Commission, part of that process is Habitat will be going before the hearing examiner on May 22nd. So hopefully I'll have some more information to bring back to you on that soon. I think we're all been holding our breath on that development for quite some time. Pleased to report kind of a win-loss. We did find a new system administrator, which is because of Fred's. That's the win. I can't remember how many people applied, but we had them at third and fourth interviews in person last week, and we extended an offer and they accepted. But that opening comes because Fred's leaving, and if you know Fred, that's that's kind of a loss. Anyway, everybody loves Fred, but and so moving forward with that and with the GIS position as well. Looks like our police chief is gone. I think you all saw the press release on catching the bank robbery. Go detectives and PD. They take that very serious, and good for them. That was a lot of hard work and late hours and whatnot. Collaborative work for sure with the community and with some other agencies. Just a couple last things then. Wanted to make you aware of the press release that went out today relative to the Memorial Day tribute, which is called The Things We Keep. This is going to be Friday, May 23rd at 2 p.m. at Guy Cole Center. Very pleased with the Park Department for putting on this event. This is kind of uniting the local veterans service organizations with the community and asking them all to bring down their medals and uniforms and photographs and put all that on display. So some work's gone into planning that, kind of a first time ever, and the local veterans organizations are thrilled with the reach out there. There'll be a wreath laying ceremony at the beginning of that at 2:00. So if you can get that on your calendar. Also, Paul let me know that he finally heard back from the Department of Ecology. We've been working with them for almost 6 months, trying to get them to give us input on the soil sample across the street at the Centennial Plaza Park. We've sent them 2 previous ones, but they didn't get to it in enough time that whatever contamination was in there was not discovered, and we knew it was kind of timed out. So anyway, out of the 3 recent samples, it's the third time we've sent them in. One of the 3 they found contamination in, and so now ecology will be coming up and working with Public Works to define what the next step is. And we're all eager. I think most of you keep asking about every 6 months, where's that at? We're not sitting on it, but we can only move as fast as we can go with ecology. So hopefully, I just wanted to update you. I wish I had more to say on that. I just want to let you know that we're still trying to move it forward aggressively as much as we can. So I think that's it. Paul, if he was here, would want me to share that the Eagles eaglets, the eagle nest and the little babies. And he's got videos of that. And they took some pictures Thursday night. Of course, the logging show had their fireworks on Friday, and they took them again Saturday, and everything's fine and everybody's still there. And I can't say they were smiling, but it's hard to know how they feel about that position that they enjoy for the fireworks. So anyway, that's everything I had. Any questions from council? Congratulations to many of you for signing back up and being able to run unopposed. I think that says a lot.
Just on your last comment regarding the fireworks and so on, was this show on Friday moved to the new location?
It's always been over there. It's a logging show, so it is. It's further away than from the soccer fields where we usually do our own. But we're moving ours over closer to where theirs are.
Oh, so it's always been logging show's always been in that new location.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right. Thanks, Matt.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. Council committee reports. Dan first.
Yeah, thank you. Just let me pull that up. Earlier today, Heather was very grateful. I was very grateful to Heather for sending out that last minute report that I sent in that I cannot now bring up on my machine. How soon are we going to get iOS approved here, Matt? Yeah. It's operator error. It's not the machine. I just like to have something to blame. Yeah, here it is. So I certainly would not have expected everybody to have had a chance to read it because I sent it to Heather so late, but appreciate her sending it to you by email and then actually including the updated agenda. So the Clallam County Homelessness Task Force is in the process of processing a state mandated strategic plan update for 5 years. So just highlighted the task force is made up of the 3 cities in the county, 4 tribal representatives, and a large number of at-large business community agency stakeholders, law and justice, homeless, and formerly homeless persons, veterans, etc. So it's been a real privilege to represent SQUIM in that dialogue. This new plan that's about to be published and then go to public comment has these 5 strategic objectives. I'll just leave them there for you to look at. And I would commend to you the Clallam County Health and Human Services website that is, not sure if that got that hyperlink. It did. The hyperlink there at the top first paragraph did survive the various transitions. Under each of these objectives are strategies, action steps, desired outcomes, including a timeline. Pretty standard strategic plan stuff. We do recognize that the objectives are aspirational, highly ambitious, especially in the context of the serious threats to critical federal funding for health and human services. But we were intentional in establishing these ambitious objectives so that we remain clear that regarding our intention to aggressively pursue solutions to the complexity and tragedy of homelessness. Key to sustainable employment is sustainable shelter. Key to sustainable addiction recovery is reliable shelter. And key to sustained treatment for mental and emotional health is reliable shelter. So it really is foundational. If people are on the streets, those other things that we would hope to see them able to move into are not attainable. We certainly have many in our community that feel compelling humanitarian motivation to respond to the unhoused person's need. But perhaps pragmatically, the economics are very clear. If we invest in reliable shelter, the cost of addressing the issues that flow from homelessness can be reduced dramatically. So it's the that, and when I was a kid, the old Fram oil filter with the mechanic coming out and you pay me now or you pay me later, advertising oil filters. This is a really classic example of that. If we would invest as a society in dealing with homelessness, we would reduce the cost significantly of all the other things that we consider to be too expensive. So the county commissioners have set May 27th for public comment prior to the report and the plan being finalized for submission to Olympia. And I'm awaiting something in the press. I'll be happy to pass on so we can all pass it on to our public in terms of the logistics of how to participate in that public comment, how to review the plan when it's published, and so on. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else have committee reports? All right, anything for open discussion?
Yeah, so I was just going through emails and doing some advanced planning for the summer as it were, and noticed that and forgive me if I'm bringing this out of order, or if this is something that is brought up more closer to, but the AWC's annual conference is happening next month. I am planning to attend to as part of the culmination of the Washington Collaborative Elected Leaders Institute in process that I've been part of. And I also noticed that during the conference is the annual meeting. And during this meeting is when they do business, and they need all cities are allowed 3 voting delegates. I'm offering to be one of those delegates since I will be there in person. And like I said, forgive me if I'm bringing this out of turn, or if this is something that normally gets brought up at closer to, but wanted to bring it up and just also invite others to be part of the process and just kind of get the conversation started.
What was the date again, Arnie?
Yes. Hold on. No, I'll get the exact time of the meeting. Give me just a sec.
I think I remember zooming in for that meeting last year, and it
kind of rings a bell.
Right? Yeah.
It's Thursday, June 26th from 4 to 5:45.
Thank you.
It does say an online option will be provided.
Mm-hmm.
Let me check my schedule. Thanks for bringing it up. Otherwise, I probably would have gone under my radar.
Oh, good. Thank you. Yes.
I am available.
Yes, I was pulling up my because I'm going to the conference area. I'd already programmed the schedule into my phone, so that's what I was digging out just now. It's like, oh no, where is my phone? I'm so glad. Yes, the 26th it's 4 to 5:45 p.m.
I have added it to my calendar.
Thank you, Rachel. Anyone else want to be a voting delegate? And there's time. I mean, we can all think about it.
I've made a note to look at it and see if I can rearrange some other things. So I'm not ready to commit at this point. But if somebody else gets in the queue ahead of me, that's fine. I won't be offended.
Thank you so much.
Anything else? All right. Next agenda planning meeting will be on the 20th. Anybody interested in attending? anybody's interested, get with Heather. So that way there's not more than 3 of us. Otherwise, the next work session will be on Tuesday, May 27th at 5 o'clock for a work session on the city sewer system. And regular scheduled meeting will be on the 27th, Tuesday at 6 p.m. And with that, we'll welcome that ever welcoming motion.
I move to adjourn.
I second that.
Second.
All right, everyone have a good evening.